Good afternoon. This is Mayor Jerome with City of Gary and your daily COVID-19 update. As everyone knows, we remain under the stay-at-home order that was issued by our governor some almost 30 days ago. There's been a lot of talk of lifting that order, but until we have an official word from the state and specifically the governor's office, we will continue to encourage folks to adhere to the social distancing order and all of the elements that are associated with it. We will continue to follow the federal and state guidelines also when determining how and when we bring the City of Gary employees back to work as well. As for now, we're certainly developing a plan to do so, and we could possibly see some employees transition back into City Hall as soon as next week. Number of Gary residents that are infected by COVID-19 continues to rise. In some instances, it could be considered a dramatic increase. For instance, over the last couple of days, Saturday as well as Sunday, we saw an increase of 25 persons who were directly impacted or tested positive for COVID-19 in both days. That's 25 persons per day. I cannot stress enough that we still need to continue to stay at home and to only travel in instances where it's absolutely necessary. When you do go out, we certainly continue to advise and encourage people to participate and to continue practicing social distancing, and that is interacting but at 6 feet apart. Also, we certainly want to know that if you don't have to leave home, then please do. We want you to continue to go check on your loved ones and certainly to be able to travel to and from work. But even as the stay-at-home order has not been lifted in the state, we certainly want to keep our Gary residents from becoming infected, and so we continue to stress the need to stay at home until further notice. Couple items have come up over the last few days. One was the issue of garbage collection as well as recycling, and I certainly want to cover both of those here briefly. In terms of garbage collection, it is continuing as has been the case all through the COVID situation. However, our waste hauler is only collecting items that are inside the can. So the directive from the city is to place all garbage inside the can, and it will be collected on a scheduled basis. The one element of collection that certainly come into question and that we've decided to suspend as a city is that of recycling. There's reasons associated by that, but until the COVID-19 virus has been at least solved, or the issue surrounding around it, we will discontinue recycling in all of the neighborhoods until further notice. Any recycling materials that you do collect in your home, you can either keep those in containers aside and resume that recycling activity once this is over, or you can simply place it in the trash cans. That within itself is something that's unsettling to a lot of folks, because we all want to do our part to protect our environment and certainly to lessen our carbon footprint. However, in the event of this COVID-19 virus, the purpose or the intent is to not handle items, or at least to limit the handling of items that can be contaminated and certainly contribute to the spread. And in terms of recycling, those items have to be sometimes hand sorted by personnel, and because of that, we've decided to discontinue recycling until further notice. Shortly, you'll hear from Dr. Walker. He'll share some updated numbers as well as some specific guidelines and directives that you certainly should adhere to as long as we're under the stay-at-home order. And he'll also offer words of encouragement in terms of giving you specific information as to what's going on here in the city presently to address the spread, as well as what you can do if you are one of the persons who are unfortunate and has been diagnosed as positive. Without any further delay, I'll bring up Dr. Walker.
Good afternoon, citizens of Gary. Once again, I would like to say that it is an honor to serve you and to be able to bring you the information that I'm bringing today. The first thing you'll notice is that I was wearing my mask. I took it off as I came to the podium because it's very difficult to speak in front of the camera with the mask on. But more importantly, I'm getting a lot of calls now from people who said, hey, I tested positive, I've been out of quarantine, I'm said to be immune, do I need to wear a mask anymore? And my response is to those people that while we assume that you are immune and we assume that you can no longer pass the virus to other people, as you will notice in public, when I'm in a store, I'm still wearing a mask. And the reason why I ask people to do that is one, we're not 100% sure that you cannot pass the virus, although we're fairly sure. But more importantly, I think it's just an example that when we wear a mask in public, that other people may not know that you're immune. And so that if you wear your mask, it sets the example for others so we can set a standard. I want to talk to you a little bit about the Indiana numbers as they become available to me today. And in Indiana now, as a total, we've had 11,686 people test positive, as well as 569 deaths. Now, that is a significantly high number. And as the mayor said, we had 52 people in Gary over this past weekend that tested positive. And I see that as a significant jump over the last, over this weekend. I will be making sure that as this broadcast re-airs that we have the new numbers for today scroll across the bottom as we go forward. I want to talk to you a little bit about also in Lake County, we now have 1,182 people who tested positive, and we have had now in Lake County 47 deaths. I bring that up again because those are highly significant numbers, and what we want to do now is think about what we can do to hold the curve and flatten the curve. And what does flatten the curve mean? What it really means is we want to slow down when people get infected so that our healthcare system can properly deal with people who have been infected. And one of the ways we do that is to have extensive testing. Now, in Gary currently, there are 3 places that you can be tested. Methodist Hospital continues to test people with a doctor's order. Because of the success last week at St. Timothy Community Church, where 816 people were tested, the state has extended now from Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday drive-up testing at St. Timothy Community Church. And those people that can be tested include, it now includes senior citizens with underlying health conditions, all essential workers, healthcare workers, grocery store workers, gas station workers who are showing symptoms, and their family members can be tested. So all essential workers that can be tested. And newly starting today also from 9 a.m. to noon at the Gary Health Department, there's drive-up testing. So now you have 3 sites in Gary where that you can be tested. And then also I wanted to share a little story because I think it talks about the humanity that's affected by this virus. So this weekend, on Friday, I received a call from a friend. And the friend said that she didn't feel well and her husband felt very ill. They didn't want to go to the emergency room because they had heard that they wouldn't get tested and they would get sent away. I could hear this person on the other end was short of breath. And this person told me that her husband didn't want to get out of bed. Just didn't feel good at the time. I implored them to go to the emergency room right away. They said no, and so I stayed on the phone with them for about 20 minutes where they agreed to go at 6 a.m. the next day. They arrived at the emergency room 6 a.m. the next day. Both of them were admitted, and the husband is currently in the ICU, and he's in very serious condition. And I believe with his condition, had he remained at home, that he would have passed away. And I share that story not to tell people's business. I share that story because, once again, this is a very serious condition with a lot of symptoms, and sometimes we don't know all the symptoms or how they're going to present at the time, and we need to seek advice in healthcare. I will direct people to go to the city website for our screening tool that will help us get that information. I will direct everybody to get tested at the 3 sites that I mentioned earlier. I continue to receive phone calls. I don't mind if you call me if you have a question, because this is very serious times, and if you don't know where to turn, you should turn to your primary care physician. If you're not comfortable, if you don't have one, you can turn to the health department, you can turn to me, because I want to make sure that people get the best that they can get, and I want everybody to know that as a city, we're working to make sure that people get the information and get the resources that they need to make it through this pandemic, and I thank you very much for your time. Mayor.
So I want to thank Dr. Walker for always giving us a very in-depth presentation and keeping us informed with the latest results, as well as pertinent healthcare information that will help stop the spread and also certainly go a long way to help save lives in the city. I would be remiss if I did not thank a couple of our partners, our local as well as national partners, who have stepped up to assist in our efforts to contain the spread and to treat those who have been impacted by COVID-19. And those partners would be the GM Corporation as well as Ventec. Last Saturday, I believe it was, I was fortunate enough to be on site when they delivered ventilators for our area hospitals. And when I say our area hospitals, certainly we're speaking of Methodist as well, but we are part of a larger district, District 1, which covers Lake, LaPorte, and Porter counties, and to that extent, Ventec as well as General Motors Corporation donated ventilators so that all of our 17 area hospitals would certainly have an ample supply to address this specific need. As Dr. Walker said, please visit our city website at gary.gov, and there you'll find a link to a screening app, which is yet another tool that Dr. Walker and our tech people put a lot of considerable amount of time rather in to being able to provide additional assistance for our residents to at least alleviate some of their concerns as it relates to this particular virus. Also, I want to inform folks that there is help available if you need food assistance during this time. The Northwest Indiana Food Bank can be contacted at foodbanknwi.org. In addition to that, there's periodic food giveaways here within the community. On May the 13th, the city, under the direction of myself as well as my wife, will be coordinating with the Food Bank of Northwest Indiana to provide a food giveaway, and the location will be Indiana University Northwest. Please look for additional information on that particular event and share the information as well with persons in need. On May the 30th, there's also another local organization, the faith-based leaders of Northwest Indiana have come together to establish another opportunity to provide assistance to those who are in need. So please look for additional information on that as well. If you have business or industry-related questions about the COVID-19, I'd like you to call the Indiana Critical Industries Hotline at 877-820-0890, or email your questions to covidresponse@iedc.in.gov. Once again, if you have medical or health-related questions on the COVID-19 virus, you can call the Indiana State Department of Health at 877-826-0011 or visit coronavirus.in.gov. Also, if you live here in Gary, our local health department, under the direction of Dr. Roland Walker, is certainly available to share information and direction as well. In closing, obviously, we've all been focused on responding to COVID-19 pandemic and to keep our community safe as possible. But my team and I will always continue to monitor the situation very closely and be prepared on a daily basis to share the most accurate and updated information with you. We're also, as I mentioned earlier, making plans to resume normal working hours within the city of Gary. Starting next week, we will start to gradually phase our employees back to work. In doing so, we will make sure that we do it in the most responsible and sensible way that supports all of our residents as well. Before concluding, I certainly want to remind you that now is the time to complete your 2020 census form. I choose this particular situation or instance to mention that largely because there's a correlation. Obviously, as a city who in some instances is under financial peril, when you combine the effects of a COVID-19 virus with the effects that it had on the economy, it only stands to reason that once this is over, certainly there will be a road to recovery. The direct relation there is that for every person counted by the census, it equates to additional dollars for us to address the needs of our most vulnerable community as well as the city at large. So I continue to encourage everyone, especially at a time like now when things have slowed down, to make sure that you fill out your census form. And if you've done so already, please make sure that you share and make that same appeal to anyone that you're familiar with, and make sure that everyone and every household is counted right here in the city of Gary. I want to thank you once again for your time and attention to all the information shared today, and look forward to future updates on COVID-19 as we move through this situation. Thank you very much.